Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. Today we are going to have a very interesting discussion about the term soft power. What would be the agenda of this lecture? We'll first understand the meaning of soft power, and we are going to have a discussion of soft power from the perspective of American democracy. We'll raise certain questions. The first question is America losing its soft power? Has its soft power been eroded in recent times? If the answer is yes, how can American democracy gain its soft power back? That would be the agenda for discussion. It's a very important discussion from exam perspective. If you have your optional as political science and international relations, it's a very important discussion because the article was written by Joseph S. Nye Jr. and you can quote him in his answers. Now, to get all this information about soft power and its analysis, stay with me on StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonkar. You can follow me on the ID @RahulSai222. If you have any query, if you want to connect with me, you can directly message me on Instagram. I do reply on Saturdays and Sundays. And if you're preparing for competitive exams, I'd request you to visit StudyIQ.com or download the app from Google Play Store to know more about us. Remember, there is a biggest sale of the year going on till 8th November 2021. Do avail those discounts. Let's begin our discussion by first understanding the term soft power. Now, to understand soft power in general, we need to understand what is the meaning of power. Now, power is your ability to get things done according to your wishes. Whatever outcome you want, you get it. Now, from traditional perspective, power has been seen from two dimensions. The first one is hard power. Now, this has been the traditional aspect. Hard power means the force that you have. Might is right concept. And hard power, it mostly depends on the military power as well as the economic power. This we have seen during the First World War, the Second World War. Whoever had the bigger army, whoever had bigger tanks, whoever had more submarines, more aircrafts, they were dominant. Whoever had more money, they were also dominant. So hard power, it depends on coercion. You coerce other person to get things done, to tell them what is to be done, to get the outcomes that you want. But especially after the Second World War, we are looking at the concept of soft power also. And it has been popularized by Joseph S. Nye. What does this soft power depend on? Soft power is quite opposite of hard power. Whereas hard power depends on coercion, soft power depends on co-option with people. Here also, you will get the desired outcomes, but not by forcing people, by persuading people, by attracting people to your side. The discussion of soft power has been very prominent in India also. We talk about India's soft power in terms of India's culture, India's spiritualism, India's contribution towards yoga, the Bollywood, even cricket is a means of soft power, isn't it? So I hope you did get an idea about soft power. Soft power is getting things done through your power of attraction, through your power of persuasion. Now, the question arises, what is happening in America? The observation is that the 4 years of Donald Trump administration, did they lead to decline of US soft power? In fact, Joseph Nye himself says the answer would be yes. And there are no prizes for guessing here. Why did the soft power of United States decline during this time period? Well, let's try to understand from two dimensions. First dimension, from the foreign policy angle. If you look at the policies of Donald Trump, the 4 years from 2016 to 2020, foreign policy was inward looking, and a lot of soft power depends on your foreign policy. I'd say there are two main dimensions to it, foreign policy as well as the domestic policy or domestic development in general. We'll talk about the variants also at the end, but in general, from a broader level, if we look at Donald Trump's policies, they were inward looking. It did make United States unattractive. He followed protectionism. He followed a trade war with China. He spoke about America first. He spoke about taking the soldiers from the other fronts back into United States of America. What Donald Trump said, that we are not contributing towards the global politics, towards the global security. What he said was the other players must contribute also. That means the foreign policy was inward looking, which did make United States unattractive. Apart from that, Donald Trump did take out United States of America from many international organizations. US withdrew from WHO. It withdrew from UNESCO. It withdrew from Paris Climate Agreement. It withdrew from the Trans-Pacific Partnership also. All these things, it led to erosion of soft power of United States of America. People started to trust less and less on US. At the foreign policy level, yes, it was a failure. At the domestic front also, policies of Trump, it did lead to deterioration of soft power. Now, when we talk about soft power, what was the attractiveness of United States? The culture of rule of law, the culture of freedom of speech and expression, the culture of right to protest, the culture of a free press. But during Trump administration, we saw the United States press also divided between pro-Trump and anti-Trump groups. In fact, the society itself was segregated between Democrats and Republicans. If you look at American society, civil rights movement arose. We saw the George Floyd incident. We saw many other such incidents for sure. In fact, the biggest blot on US soft power has been January 6, 2021. What happened on that day? An attempt for insurrection in the United States of America, a one of its kind incident. The results of US presidential elections, they came in November 2020. The elections result, they clearly showed that Joe Biden was the winner. He was the presidential elect. But on January 6, because of certain inflammatory posts by the president Donald Trump, people started a march on the White House. We saw the pictures. And those pictures, they did erode the soft power of United States of America. Isn't it? So if you ask a question, has US soft power eroded? Obviously, yes. Although we are talking only about Donald Trump, but I would say certain amount of contribution towards eroding of soft power does go to George W. Bush Jr. His war on terrorism and later on war on Iraq and many other policies did begin the erosion of soft power, and with Trump administration, they have come at the lowest point. Now the question in front of all of us is that soft power has eroded for sure, but will American soft power survive after Donald Trump? Can America gain its soft power back? Is it possible for America to again become the darling of the world? Now, the answer to this is in history. We always say that history is cyclical. History repeats itself. It is not that America had soft power always. In fact, if we look at the decade of 1960s, the situation was quite similar. We can compare the decades of 1960s with the developments in 2010s, that is from 2016 to 2020 for sure. What happened in 1960s United States of America? The entire decade of 1960s has been the most tumultuous and divisive decade in the US history. Why? Vietnam War, it divided the entire society. The civil rights movement, especially by the colored people, it was very, very prominent during this particular decade. Political assassinations happened. We can talk about assassination of Robert Kennedy, assassination of JFK, right? Assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. In fact, there was some sort of an emerging gap, generation gap between people. Anti-war protests, civil rights movement, this all were very prominent in 1960s. And at that time, I would say American soft power was again at the lowest. We can compare 1960s with 2010s, where similar kinds of development happening, although I wouldn't say political assassinations, but we can see a civil rights movement now also, the Black Lives Matter movement in USA. The society is divided between Democrats, Republicans. There is some sort of an emerging gap for sure, because if Donald Trump's policies, which supported America first, job for Americans, why was it? Because people supported it. There is some sort of an emerging generation gap even now today. So it's quite comparable, 1960s and the 2010s, especially the late 1960s and late 2010s. Now, what happened after 1960s? Did America gain back its soft power? The answer would be yes. We all know it. In 1970s, USA started a new kind of movement. The basic shape was New Right. This New Right movement, it brought reforms in America. It celebrated the free market. It lamented the decline of traditional social values and roles. Although I wouldn't say that the early 1970s, because in early 1970s, from 72 to 74, we have seen another black spot in American history, the Watergate scandal. Richard Nixon was the president at that time. But whoever has come after Richard Nixon, they have done tremendously well. A lot of political reforms did come in late 1970s, after 1975, I would say. After Richard Nixon, whatever presidents came, if you talk about Gerald Ford, his honesty did bring soft power back to USA. If you talk about Jimmy Carter, his policies of human right, promotion of human rights, it did bring back soft power into USA. If you talk about Ronald Reagan, his free market policies, his optimism, and his contribution predominantly towards the decline of USSR, it did make him very popular. It did bring back some sort of hegemony for United States of America, at least for a couple of decades. That means the soft power, which was at the lowest in 1960s, it was regained back in the upcoming decades. In fact, I would say in just a decade, it did happen. But a lot of contribution does go to the successors of Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, and Ronald Reagan. Now, if we look at this historical experience in 1960s, when the soft power was at the lowest, they came back strongly. An opportunity is there now with US again. Why? Because Trump administration is over. Now Joe Biden administration has come. And if we look at the observation of Joe Nye, he says that soft power depends on what things? It depends on the foreign policy. It depends on the political values of the country. It depends on the political culture of the nation, on the people. On the foreign policy front, I would say that Joe Biden is trying to reverse the legacy of Donald Trump. He has brought USA back at the global stage. He has acceded back into WHO, into UNESCO, into the Paris Climate Agreement. Negotiations over TPP are going on. In fact, Joe Biden himself has said that America is back on the global table. Although, initial few months, we have seen that foreign policy has faltered, especially with respect to Afghanistan, where the withdrawal of soldiers was quite hasty. Withdrawal from many other places is still happening. So it's a mixed bag in terms of Joe Biden's foreign policies. But does the onus of bringing soft power back into America lie only with the president? The answer would be no. And does it lie only on Joe Biden? The answer would be no. It lies on all the future presidents. But apart from the president and the US administration, the onus also lies on the people, on the political values, on the political culture. If we look at US society today, are they promoters of the political values that they have supported for centuries? Are they supporting a free press? Are they supporting right to protest? Are they supporting the civil rights movement? Are they supporting this culture of human rights? Ultimately, America will gain back soft power, but the onus not just lies on the administration, but the onus lies on the people to safeguard its soft power and to make America great again. So let us wait and watch whether this will happen or not. But history tells us it is quite possible, and it is a test for the administration, not just Joe Biden administration, but all the future administrations as well as the citizens of America. With that note, let me end my discussion. Thank you for watching this. Jai Hind.